right, good morning everybody. Before we start today, apologies for like the red staining on my hands. I was cleaning up some of my paints and I just am not able to get it off right now, so I know that's a little distracting, so I apologize for that. If there is one habit that I recommend everyone, it is journaling. I think that kind of like working fast food, if everyone tried journaling at least once, we would collectively just be a much happier and grateful group of people. There are many benefits to journaling, enough that they deserve their own video, and there's plenty of videos out there. Personally, journaling has been a constant outlet that has kind of talked me off the ledge multiple times throughout my life, and I've been journaling since I was a kid. And I think the key to successful journaling is finding your ideal journal style. And when you find that style that actively fits your wants and needs, you'll be closer to enjoying all the benefits that can come with journaling. Journaling can feel very instinctual for a lot of people when they start, but if you're watching this, then it may not come as easily to you, or you're just looking to improve your journaling a little bit more. And if that's the case, we are going to start with step one, which is finding your journal style. In order to find your journal style, we need to walk through the 10 most common journaling types and determine which ones call to you the most. I like to separate these styles by extrinsic and intrinsic motivations. I think that can really help you determine what practice aligns with your personality more, but those aren't mutually exclusive, which I'll get more into later. But if you're unfamiliar with those terms, intrinsic motivation is people who are highly motivated by like self-initiation and fulfillment and just the act of doing itself. And extrinsic motivation is when people are motivated by some sort of tangible or external outcome. If you already know which way you lean, whether you're more intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated, that can help a little bit. That's not the end all be all for this, but I do like to break them up that way because I think it helps, and it's been true for my style. We are going to go down the list. For extrinsic journaling styles, we have goal-oriented journaling. This can be tracking goals, progress, habits, things like that. Creative journaling, this is when you have some sort of artistic expression. Travel journaling, this is where you kind of record your experiences and memories. Bullet journaling, or I guess it depends on, your version of bullet journaling, but the original bullet journaling is a very organized and structured logging system. And then chronicle journaling is a historical time documentation system. And then when it comes to intrinsic, that includes reflective journaling, which is a lot of introspection. Gratitude, this could be a lot of positive acknowledgement. You could also tie manifestation journaling into this. Stream of consciousness journaling, this is kind of just free flow expression, kind of brain dumping. And then therapeutic, this is a emotional release, sometimes can be kind of like a Dear Diary thing. And then lastly, we have prompted journaling, which is kind of guided prompts that you are given to have you think very deeply and introspectively about certain topics. These are the top 10 journaling types and styles that you will see kind of on the internet, or maybe you've experimented with before. By using this list, you can pick your style based on your motivation type and or what individual practices call to you. I am someone who is very intrinsically motivated, so the styles that really interest and kind of call out to me are creative journaling. I don't travel a lot. I've tried bullet journaling, but that didn't really work out for me. I don't like to do my goals in journaling. I would say probably reflective, stream of consciousness, and therapeutic. So those are the styles that kind of call out to me, and I definitely use bits and pieces of all of these styles, but these 4 are kind of my foundational journaling types that I use. And I think when you look at my journaling pages in here, you can kind of see that reflected, right? I have the creative piece in here. I do practice a lot of stream of consciousness. A lot of my journaling is just an emotional release for me. and it's a way for me to decompress everything that's going on in my life and things like that. Ones that call out to me are pretty on par for what I actually practice. I think this list is helpful if you don't know where to start or what you want to write about. For example, bullet journaling is incredibly popular, and when you watch videos on YouTube, it might be something that you really are interested in and it piques your interest. But if organized, structured logging doesn't really call to you or your current wants and needs in a book, then you might not want to start with that kind of journaling type. After you pick and find your ideal journaling style, step 2 is just going to be to practice. I recommend writing whatever ones you choose. It doesn't have to be 4, you could choose 5 or 6, you could just choose 2 or 1. I would write those down on a separate piece of paper and just kind of keep it on hand for when you need to reference it when you're journaling. And when you sit down to actually write, you can reference the list and write about what is resonating with you in that moment or what feels relevant. If I chose these 4, maybe when I sit down to write, I'm going through a tough period, therapeutic journaling is probably going to call to me more than creative. And so that reminder is just there for me to say, okay, maybe today is a good time for me to write and get some sort of emotional release and talk out or write out my feelings. Whenever I journal, I like to use I am, I feel, and I think statement. That kind of helps me kickstart things. When you turn to a blank page, sometimes it can be very intimidating. You don't really know, how to start off. An example of that could be, I am feeling very overwhelmed today. I feel like I've put too much things on my plate. I think next week I need to take a little bit of a break. And then usually that statement can kind of kickstart me into diving a little bit deeper into my feelings and kind of talk my feelings out. And so if you kind of struggle with that, definitely try the I am, I feel, I think, and see if that resonates with you. I also think it's important to mention that when you get comfortable with journaling and you've kind of built your foundation, it might be valuable to experiment with some of these other styles. But once you have developed, your core safe space to journal and express yourself, you might experiment with some of these and find that you get a lot of joy out of them. I always recommend experimenting and, trying new things once you have that foundation built. The more you practice and the more you start to journal, you'll probably find yourself mixing and using a lot of these in your practice. And that's what makes journaling so unique. And there's so many different personality types and styles. And I think that's what can make it a little bit overwhelming on YouTube when you see these people who have a really successful journaling routine and they have their core principles, but they don't necessarily match up with yours. Being able to narrow down your needs or your wants when it comes to journaling is very helpful instead of, using other people's styles as guides. And I think there's definitely value in watching other people and how they journal and their different style types. But when you're first starting out or you're just trying to improve your journaling in general, I think it's really important to make sure that your foundation types are kind of figured out. Other honorable mentions that I like to throw in for journaling are going to be supplies in the sense of user experience, determining or just experimenting with different paper types, pen types. I thought that I was always going to be like 160 GSM bullet journal girly, but when I purchased my first Hobonichi and I tried this paper, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this feels so much better to me. And I'm a very tactile person, and the feeling of the book is one of the most important things to me. And for you, that might not matter, and that's totally fine, but it's always worth experimenting because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And again, I thought I was going to be a really thick paper type of person, and it was never working out for me. And then when I kind of switched up my user experience or some of those variables, it was really helpful for me in my consistency. I also recommend experimenting with the type of book. I have a journaling system that is attached to my planner. By doing that, I always kind of have the opportunity to journal when I am, working on my work tasks or, my to-do list, things like that. I always have this outlet available to me because I have both of them combined into one. You may not be comfortable with that. You may want to keep your journal, you know, just at home. You don't want, you know, other eyes on it. And that's totally fine too. Whatever makes you feel most comfortable, explore those options. I have also started to write in like my small cursive handwriting just to protect my privacy more, and that helps me feel more comfortable like writing in public or in coffee shops and things like that. And I can write a lot more authentically in my planner when I use cursive and small handwriting, things like that, because it just gives me a little bit more privacy. So you can kind of play around with things like that. For me, a lot of my writing is an emotional release, and I mainly write to just get it out of my system and kind of get decompressed and get it off my chest. And so a lot of the times I don't really care if my handwriting is legible, because I am doing the practice for the sake of getting it out of my system, not to, you know, reflect and reread it. I'm sure I could always reread it if I really try, but 9 out of 10 times I don't come back here and read my entries. I mainly just look at like the art that I do, and then usually the pictures and, you know, drawings can give me some context to what I was writing about. But yeah, those are some tips that have helped me. And just having paper and pens that give you a really smooth and comfortable experience, I think is huge. I use a Zebra Sarasa pen most of the time, and I actually lost it, so I had to order another one. So I've been using this Uniball pen kind of as a temporary replacement, and I don't like this pen as much, and I can already feel a difference in the experience of writing because I don't have, you know, my favorite comfortable pen. My last tip for finding your journal style is just to practice consistency. Making journaling a habit has been very important for me. I don't force myself to write every day. I've kind of built a routine where I only write in my journal when it calls for it, when I feel the need to write, or if I want that decompression and emotional release, or if I want a creative outlet. Really define consistency for yourself. And I actually just did a video on this, which I will have right here. And these are kind of my biggest tips when it comes to consistency in your planner. It translates into journaling just as much. And I think there's a lot of valuable information in there. So definitely watch that video when it comes to consistency. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you guys in the next video.